I came to some insights last night, all the time from my point of view as a high performing feminine energy with a lot of masculine in her. So I've always come out as one of those balanced people, like ridiculously balanced, always kind of reasonable, just almost impossible to be straight down the middle. And typically, and I'd say about 75% to 80% of those kinds of tests, I test that way for my personality. A lot of female, a lot of male energy. My experience with my person, I was not, there was that fight because I had that strong male energy. And you could say it was from being single so long. And at the time that we met, I was a single mother. My mother lived with me. I owned my own home, thriving career, all of those things, all the things that you want except the man or the person. I'd say the person. I got the person. I've been in that place and I gave a lot in that relationship. In my mind, I don't think that it is that controversial that women can make more money than men. I don't understand what the problem is. Uh, Times are different, and the way I've always thought of relationships is it's give and take, one us together. And when my person is carrying me because I can't walk, I know that I will carry, they know that I will carry them if the situation were reversed. As I can say, I had a friend years ago, no longer close with this person, and they were having a hard time. They were the breadwinners, female. She was the breadwinner and was having a really, really hard time with it because she resented it. Like, oh, I've got to pay my money and what the hell is he doing? And he's sitting on his ass. We would frequently remind her, well, when he was making the big money or when he had money, because he left a lucrative career, he asked her, can I leave this lucrative career? Because I have this passion I want to pursue. And it took many years, but he's now pursuing it. But she did allow him to do it, but it wasn't easy. So it wasn't easy to let go of that part, especially that we've been conditioned in our society for the feminine, for women, that specifically women, I guess in our society, I don't need to make any bones about that, but we've been specifically programmed that, oh, you're supposed to stay home, you're not supposed to work, you're the damsel in distress, which is how, and maybe that were true when brute strength amongst the were the most valued. If brute strength was allowed to rule, then that's probably true because physically we're not as strong. But I digress. What I'm saying is she felt uncomfortable because now she was the breadwinner, and maybe she was feeling how men in our society feel when they go out and they're not feeling they're feeling resentful that there's this person who's doing these other things and they're quote unquote paying for it. It's a natural place. It comes from your childhood, whatever, psychotherapy. But my point being, we were pointing this out to her at the time, and as I'm saying now, and this was many years ago, he's doing what he's wanted to do, and it's wonderful, and they're still together, and yay! I mean, so it's actually the case where something like that really, really it held up. I was in that case. I was the breadwinner. Everything for me was to. I like things. I like beautiful things, and anyone who's around me, you're gonna be around beautiful things, or nice things, or comforting things, and it's not just items, stuff per se. It's more of a vibe, shall we say? Before vibe, just the feeling, the surrounding, the energy, the aura of comfort, relaxation, and home. I love home. I'm a home body. Uh, so my home must reflect someplace that I like to spend time. I like to spend time at home, so therefore it must be nice. I don't. Why would I want to spend time? See, I don't understand people who like to spend time in places that are not nice. And when I say nice, I am not talking about, oh, it's got to be Martha Stewart or Hearth and Home. aesthetic. No, I'm talking about clean, warm, dry, uncluttered. I like minimalism. I like less stuff. I'm always purging. I don't like a lot of. I love stuff, but I don't like it. Um, and as I said, that feeling, I feel that humans and animals, well, energy fills a space, and then that space takes on that energy. And I think if we consult a few folk, around the new age world, or around the age world, because it's not new anymore, uh, they would say the same. So that feeling, so it's an overall vibe that comes with me. That's who I am. It's very natural. It's what I. That's just me. Um, so yeah, I like cruising. I like beautiful things. I love. Okay, this might be controversial. I love luxury items, but I don't love the luxury names, the stigma, and the price tags. I love quality. I love things that are made by an artisan or by someone handmade, or even when it's with love. I love that, and I think it's fair that they should be compensated. Um, Sometimes very nicely, depending on the quality and the craftsmanship for their product. The people then got crazy. That's all I'm saying. The people, yeah, Gucci. I'm talking about you. Yeah, all of y'all's, even you, Hermes, the Birkin bag. Ain't no purse worth that. We can get into money in a minute. So as we go, and I'm the breadwinner, and he's not, and he's making a middle class, if not, kind of on a lower scale. He's worked with his hands, blue collar. Uh, Best friend number three likes to remind me that no one expected me to be with a blue collar guy. Oh, what? How did that happen? She's supposed to be with a lawyer or a judge or a businessman or a CEO or something. I don't know. I have not attracted those people into my life. Maybe that's a vibrational thing. I don't know. Oh, they're higher. I'm like, whatever. However, I don't have that same thing. I am not a college graduate myself. That I was able to climb and get somewhere in the corporate world doesn't. So I'm white collar. I look at a person, and I'm thinking about the person. My first husband, I always would say he was a genius. He's fucking brilliant. He, just the concepts that his mind, because he was a musician, but he was also a mathematician, and just, and his mind fascinated me. And our big thing was books. We both were big readers, but that he spoke German, and he could read all of these books in English, and he would read them in German and English. And there was a couple books of his that, actually, it was the book he was reading, which, now that I think about it, when I think about our story, which is just an interesting story as well, and one day I'll tell it. But he was reading Goethe, Escher, Bach. It's a book, and I don't remember the man's name, and I could look it up because the computer's right in front of me, but I don't feel like it. Anyways, he was reading this book when we met. This book, and he was reading it in English, the English one, when I met him, and then he told me he'd read it in German as well. And I tried, I could not. I have a block against mathematics, which I didn't have until the sixth grade. And I think I mentioned in the sixth grade, I had two teachers, and I'll count them two, and they were females, and they literally killed my math instincts. They convinced me that I was an idiot at math, and I believed them. And why wouldn't I? Because I was in the sixth grade. But anyways, haha, bitches. Wonder how many other minds they did that too. Anyway, what I'm saying is, blue collar, white collar, lawyer, bricklayer. I've never thought of that as the measure of the person's character, of their heart, of their ability to love, to give and receive love. Now, whether or not your interests collide, and that sort of, that's another story. So I'm not saying everybody go out and get yourself a bricklayer. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that I do find it false when people, women and men, judge someone by by what their profession is or lack thereof. My mother used to say, I want the girls would say, "Ooh, I want to date a man, and he's gonna drive a Mercedes, because I'm gonna date a man that's driving me around this nice car." Or I just met this guy, and we'd say, she'd say whatever car he drove. My mother would always snap back immediately, and she'd say, "So what? So what? He's got a nice car. He can live in that car." So that is not giving you any vibes that this person is who you think he is. My mother always used to say that. She used to say, "You don't know who people are behind closed doors." She used to say that people do what they want to do. Sometimes you tell them what you think, and other times you're wasting your breath. But basically, it was, you do your thing and understand that other people are doing their thing, and their thing may not jive with your thing, and everybody pay attention to your own thing. Thanks, Mom. Essentially, uh, the interesting part of being the breadwinner in this society, particularly in the United States, is that women are more educated. Women and women are better in so many aspects of business that we should be much more in charge, and we're not. And that's the patriarchy. And as I've gotten older and I've started to see all these different things, why the patriarchy works, why racism works, all of these things, xenophobia, um, and I see how they work. It's much more difficult for me to try to put them in words, because if I could put them in words, I would fucking be famous and rich, right? Hello. But in that idea that we women can't do, when men find women who can, and there are many. And what is it true that I think women are the breadwinners now for the most part? It fucks with a man's mind. Men also, while women, I think it's because women can create life, and I am so excited to hear that they found stem cells and menstrual blood. Why isn't this splashed on the front of every paper? I mean, that's huge. Anyway, that I digress. But if you're a woman and you're in this and you're making more money, it's tough, right? When they are, but we can give life, so we can give birth, and even if we can't give birth, we can give life. So just occurred to me. So, what if the universe releasing this information that women's menstrual blood can has stem cells in it, that even women who cannot give birth may be able to give life? Hello, 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 hello. Wow, 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 wow. So, mm, that's that's beautiful. That's really beautiful. So now women are able to do these things. But men, what can men do, right? The problem with the man is the problem because they don't give birth, they're not creators. So I feel that in that sense, what the way that men create is by creating things and cities. The men If the women are creating the next generation, then the men are creating the spaces, they're building the spaces that make it possible for the procreation to happen. And that could mean farming, hunting, building, engineering, security, meaning keeping you away from the animals and whatnot. Governing, just because the thought is the women are procreating at that time. Well, let's speed up a few thousand years. Okay, now we're here, and we've kind of, but regardless, now women are not preoccupied with procreating, and they're building. They want to do the engineering. So males kind of like, hey, wait a minute. We've been doing this for a few thousand years. Why are you stay in your lane? And I get it. But some societies have not just been stay in your lane, they've been stay down. And that's different. So our men don't know what to do with themselves because they're unable to create. If they create a lawsuit, they create, but if they're actually defending someone against a false charge, that's different. So these stockbrokers, what are they doing? Oh, here, let me push some buttons and I have this friend. Versus someone who tinkers with a product and makes it, figures out how to mass produce it, and then therefore makes something. All of these things are valid in our society, including those persons who have occupations that simply help others, in our society. Purpose of work is that's what's own. That's what paying rent for our place on this planet is. That's what work is. So work is a lot of different things. And I think it's okay for a woman to, in her work, that somehow is lucrative, or if it's more lucrative than her spouse, whoever that spouse is, what difference does it make? So, for instance, if your person is the same, okay, let's break it down. If marriage is two humans, okay, we've been saying, hey, it's got to be a man and a woman for lots in this society. Let's just stay in our man and woman. That's it. So we kind of we're learning more. We're doing things. We're learning about these other groups of people, these other types of people, and other types of people said, hey, we want to be able to live out loud and do it. Okay, cool. So in some places, yay, we said, oh, okay, this could be a man and a man, or a woman and a woman. Okay, yeah. And even some places are like, everybody can be together. Okay, yeah. Everybody's happy. La, 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 la. They have kids, whatever. Okay. But in that marriage, which is a business arrangement, by the way, I want to just really stress to everyone that marriage is actually a business arrangement and not a union of love or the soul at all. It is, we're talking about marriage today, and what it's been for the last 2,000 years is literally a contract. It's a business contract. And before then, it was probably contract too, between the royals and all that shit. But I mean, okay. It's a contract. It's a business contract. And that's where I made my mistake. I'm telling you, I made a lot of money. I made more money than my husband. And I was still kind of living large. And so he was there, and I was wanting to live the life of someone who matched me in my income. Yeah, I think you can figure out that didn't turn out too well. When I unlocked the inner spend in him, he was like, "Ooh, I like this nice stuff too," and he fed me, and I was like so happy to give him what he wanted and happy to have what I wanted. And bankruptcy. So I decided on bankruptcy. I said we needed to file, and it was his first wife had bankruptcy. And it's probably more from not being active in the finances than either one of our fault, although I take pretty much full responsibility for the actual indebtedness. We chose Chapter 7, and by golly, we paid it back with just shortly. I think we had just quite a bit that we had to acquit, but I'm very proud of that. I did not go to get all of our debts distinguished. We paid back. It was a hard time, but we did it. And I'm happy to say now I'm debt free. So I always wanted to be debt free. That was always my mantra. And I love to spend. And then my mantra was, I need money. I want money. I want money. Money is, and I think about it, money's never come hard to me. Not really. I've always been able to get a roof over my head. So yes, I'm extremely lucky. I'm very lucky. And the places I've been able to go and the things I've been able to do, everything, the food I've been able to eat, the clothes I've been able to put on my back, the people I've been able to talk to, extremely lucky. I'm grateful for this life and I want to continue that life. And I started to see that I was not going to do it in the place that we were at. And at that time, I'd lost my job. I'd been fired. I still need to go into some deep therapy to go back to that. But that would be what I would say, that experience. It wasn't the getting fired where I realized that whatever was happening happened maybe a year before. So 2021, 2020, excuse me, 2021, 22, the year before. And acknowledging that whatever I was going through, and I believe that it was perimenopause at that time, and then menopause, and I probably had hormones out of control. And that's not an excuse, but I think it led me to not see that that was not a healthy situation for me. I doubled down, and and then when I stayed true until the end, and then I decided not to sue. I had a case, and I decided not to. I decided for two reasons not to sue. Number one, I wouldn't have gotten them for discrimination, which is exactly what happened to me. But number two, I wouldn't be able to tell my story. I didn't have like the great story where they were flying Nazi flags. There wasn't an ace in the hole kind of thing. So at most, I would have gotten a little bit of money, and then I would have had to sign an NDA, and I did not want to do that. And I was very angry and very bitter all about, and because it just was this harrowing experience that I went through all the 9 months up until they fired me was hideous. It was the worst time of my life, and it was worse than the two separations with my person. I got to tell you, it was awful because he would hear me, and he really pulled me through that. But when I lost my job, I lost that good income, and where we were, I was not able to get hired. And I was a combination of being in a very small market where I came from a very large market, in addition to ageism. It's real. It is real. Was much too senior. There weren't very many senior positions for me. So I was overqualified for 95% of the stuff that they had out there. I tried and got through. We were able to limp through uh, between the ACA, unemployment, and I basically went and sold all my shopping, paid off then because pretty much I sold everything, and that got us through. What didn't get us through, I felt, was my person's job performance. In my head, he'd seen me work for hours and to make good money. And I felt like I was so tired. I was physically exhausted as well, and mentally depressed. But it was his time to step up. It was his time to lead, and he would lead the family and bring us out of the dark money ages. And that didn't happen because, in my estimation, his work habits remain the same, which were very much like a kind of like a if he liked Jimmy Buffett, that would have been his life. If Jimmy Buffett liked golf and Budweiser and light beer and high life, you know, uh, and that I began to resent it. Oh, I began to resent it, and just stewed, and he would go and get drunk, or he'd be at or he'd just stay at the the bar for a lot of hours. And now that I think about it, why wouldn't he? Why wouldn't he? Because I was friggin' either pissed off at the world or I was bunkered down. Because then I started to, because left over from the pandemic, I was really comfortable with the pandemic. Because I'm a homebody, so I'm really comfortable with the pandemic. I don't need to see nobody. I stay home. I'm happy, stream, woo. And I think I got to get agoraphobic. So I just did not want to do anything. And I still suffer from that to some extent. I have to make myself go out versus the default is you don't stay home. You kind of just go there to sleep and, then go out in the world and do everything. And to me, it's like, I know the world is in my home. So every so often I would pull myself out and accompany him. And I know it was always a big deal for me to accompany him to places. And I really pulled out of that. Suffice to say that during this time we pulled apart. And during this time I also came to the conclusion that I would like to leave where we were and I wanted to return home to California. And it was a job thing. It was more of I can't do this anymore. We're getting tough. I wasn't seeing, hubby wasn't stepping up. I mean, in the sense that we were just oof. We had a big tax bill hanging over our heads because on his side, in his business the only thing I could think of is, and the house I bought with the proceeds from my old house from before we were married. So I was very much, this is my money standpoint. And it was very a business. I was very about the business. I was very about the money. I was afraid about money. I gave him a deal. I was ruthless to my person. I was like giving him an ultimate. I'm not, okay, I'm going. If you want to come, all right. And he said, I want to come. And I was like, all right. And I never got better. I did begin to fall back in love with my husband. And I don't even remember when. At some point I did, and that was very close to when we decided to leave and we were building and I'm like, are we doing this together? Because I knew that I knew things were going to change, and I knew things were going to change for this kind of like really good big reason. And then we got here and he was unable to get his driver's license. First, he got shingles. He got a terrible case of shingles. Then he was not able to get his driver's license because of a DUI back in our former state that he had cleared. And there was some miscommunication. And I left it to him because I thought that I was busy with this vision and I built it. And but I was very obsessed with home. Home had to be that. For whatever reason, I had to get home together. I had put together my career dreams. Things started coming to me. I was very kind of open, changed. I mean, just myriad of changes that were just insane while he was going through his thing. And I was kind of asking him, hey, I'm kind of doing this. Can you do this? And at first he was like, yeah. And then I felt he wasn't doing it enough. So I said, and he said, okay. And he started stepping up and taking over more things. I said, hey, if I'm building this, please take care of the home, take care of the hearth. That was kind of my plea there. Take care of the insurance and take care of the paperwork and all that stuff, because I'm taking care of the insurance and the paperwork on the business side now. And that's double work. And I'm looking at you and you're sitting back and I'm looking at you going, motherfucker. I think people can relate to that idea. It's like when you're working and your spouse, okay, like when your spouse okay, they're not hurt, they can't be hurt, so this can't be like workers' comp or nothing, this can't be that, or disability. When you're whatever, like when I was married to a German, my first husband, So, they get a lot of vacation, right? They get 6 weeks. But I worked for the US government. I worked for the DOD. I think I got 7 days. Yeah. Yeah. So he's like, oh, let's go to Spain. And I'm like, oh, we go to work and I don't got the vacation because, my income. Yeah. That was a motherfucker. And also when you have to get up to work and they don't, that's hard because then you feel like, oh man, you get to stay in. So it's like this weird resentment that you build. And I think that, I believe, is what I was feeling during this time. Because then shortly after um, being cured of or the shingles cleared up, he broke his rib. And he broke his rib because he was drunk and he tripped on the dog. Yeah, that's why he broke his rib. So then he was down for that. Now, all this time waiting on the driver's license, finally that doesn't come through. Then I forget. Then he gets this really terrible call. So let me just say, it was such a. I had asked him to stop, to not drive if he was drunk, to not if he, and then also he was just driving. He wasn't drunk, but he was driving without a license because California had taken his license, his old one, so he had no license, which was just. Anyway, we finally had bought the class so he could clear it up that weekend. He went out, he went to the bar, he took the bus to the bar, and then sometimes I would go pick him up, like either go have a drink with him or I would go eat dinner. We'd go eat dinner or go visit, whatever. So that night I'd eaten late and he said, oh, you want to pick me up? And I said, he goes, hey, I'm ready, you want to pick me up? I go, no. He goes, okay, I'll take the bus home. I'm like, okay. Then he wasn't home, and it was like, wait, you should have been home by now. Later that night, he comes in and I'm like, oh, hey, finally decided to join us. And I go in and he's got blood coming down. His glasses had been here. He had black eyes. He had, scrapes. He had scrape. I was like, oh my God. And then he tells me he'd been jumped. And I'm like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. I need to change because this is getting so long and I can't get these off my phone. So I'm going to change cameras.